Okay. All right. So welcome to Lionel Long Island Nightlight Radio interviews. I am here with Houston from Tears of Ra. Um, Yesterday, we attempted to do an interview and it was beset by some internet problems, which can happen from time to time, definitely on my end. So I appreciate Houston's patience and him taking the time to come back on the show today. So I'm just we're gonna be trying to reconstruct the conversation that was really compelling yesterday. So Houston, I just like I said, thank you for your patience and for coming back on. And if I just want to give you the floor to tell me the origins of your band and the inspiration behind it and all the cool things that we were talking about yesterday.
It's good to be back, Louis. Since the last time I was here, I'm just kidding. No, thank you. Yeah, so Tears of Ra, a heavy metal band from Austin, Texas, who that writes and is dedicated to a particular story about, it's a fictional retelling of what happened between Ramses III in the time while he was pharaoh, and a little bit in the time before. It's fictional because basically what I did when I was reading about the Bronze Age collapse and his reign or whatever, is take what we are pretty sure happened throughout history. He has, it's all propaganda, but writings on his walls of well, we fought, defeated, then I went out and conquered some more of them. They came and destroyed our enemies and our friends or whatever. They destroyed everything, took down all these ancient nations and stuff, but not Egypt. And so I just became overly fascinated with that and began creating a story where I, took the major events and then in between I'm kind of constructing, a narrative, sort of a character study about, Ramses and I don't know. It's really hard to say, too much about what goes on from there. But yeah, and then it's mixed with Lovecraftian mythology, because Dagon is a god of the Philistines, and the Philistines, as far as I know, were sort of relocated to that area after Ramses III defeated them because they're who this French historian was referring to as the Sea People. And so then, yeah, Dagon and the Sea People versus Egypt. That sounded awesome. And then I could, write all of this vast array of heavy music to it because it's more of a soundtrack than an album. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Yeah, particular songs will go, for different cultures or, like if we're doing like we have a song called "The Fall of Ugarit," which is more harmonic minor stuff as opposed to the Phrygian stuff, which is always going to be Egypt. And it's interesting to me in that way. And then since the story's about characters and their relationships and all these different things, you can have all of this tender sounding music and really even more what would you say, heady or uh, like progressive, like proggy sounding, to get all these different feelings for the characters and all that kind of stuff. So it's really exciting to me in that way. As of now, the story is basically going to be two graphic novels. The first story is about Ramses' ascension to the throne. The second story is about him versus the Sea People, basically. And with that, Tears of Ra is going to be releasing an EP and 2 albums. Anything after that is completely open game to what the rest of the band wants to do, as far as writing or where do we go. And And the cool thing about Tears is, like I said, because we can hit all of these different areas, like the creative potential is just, just goes on forever, as far as I can tell.
You
Um,
made you made reference to like the Phrygian modes and
yeah,
everything. You sound like you have some some background in music theory, and I'm just curious where that came from in your life.
I have no background in music theory. Mostly all that to me just comes from playing with musicians who are better than me,
Oh, okay,
which
all
is
right.
not
Well,
hard to find. And it's funny, in Tears of Ra, I would say that there's two other guitar players that are better than me in the band, but I'm the only guitarist.
okay.
One of them actually has a degree um, in music performance on the classical guitar.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's
I
that's where
know. And
that's
I
where
gotta
some
go.
knowledge of modes comes in.
Right, and I gotta go. Okay, well, yeah, I pretty much, do blues licks disguised as Phrygian stuff. um, anyway, but
No, that's cool.
um,
I mean, it's always it helps you grow as a musician to be surrounded by folks that that have more experience, that know more, or whatever. I find that too, to be in the deep end of the pool is that's where you want to be.
right. Well, and like I said, learning the lingo, and so if I was in middle school, yeah, and I've known Tynert since I was in high school, but yeah, if I was in middle or high school, Tynert's my singer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
We have two singers. We have a male and a female lead. Uh, Tynert is his last name. Like I said, been going to high school with me. And what was the original point I was making there? Oh, right. So if I was in high school, I might get away with saying, fifth fret or whatever. But now it's all notes, and it's just
Yeah,
like, no,
sure.
we're gonna go from F sharp to D or whatever. And yeah, and all of that just comes from mostly going to Texas State, where I met my keyboard and sax player, Michael Schatz, and hanging around his group of friends who, yeah, they don't say, oh yeah, 5 and then 10 and 5 and 10.
Yeah.
It's no, it's A and D.
Yeah,
So
no, to me that qualifies as music theory, the knowledge of it. So that's pretty cool.
yeah,
And
and then I've paid for a couple of lessons, throughout over the years. Every now and again, I'll just if I can find the right teacher, that's mostly what it is. But yeah, so I've had a few lessons, but that really didn't start till college. Everything before then is just me playing Nirvana and Rage Against the Machine,
oh, right.
and
Oh,
Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
oh, cool. Yeah, you're kind of answering one of my questions, because I was going to ask like what kind of groups originally influenced you and inspired you. I remember when Rage Against the Machine first came out, and I was like, "What is this?" It was like really like I turned my head around. I'm wondering if you had the same reaction the first time you heard that.
It was weird. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
So the earliest time in my life that I can remember liking a song and going, "That was cool." So when I was about 6 years old, and was seeing my dad and his brother in Austin, and No Satisfaction came on the radio, and I just remember bopping my head. And then I specifically remember my uncle being surprised and going, "Oh, you like that?" And I was just go, "Yeah, that was cool." I don't know what that was. And my first concert was the Rolling Stones, the first time they ever came to Austin,
Oh,
which was
wow.
like a big deal. And they
Yeah.
played, a Buddy Holly song, they played a Waylon Jennings song. It was awesome. Anyway, so I don't know. I started from there, and then really got into Led Zeppelin when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and they were just like my favorite band for years. Well, I say years. It felt like years, but I don't know. Things move by quickly when you're a kid. But so okay, so Yeah, I really got into Nirvana when I was about 13 or 14, and then shortly after that, I finally listened to or saw the music video or something for Bulls on Parade, and was like, "Damn, that's awesome!"
Yeah.
And got really into, Tom Morello to me just showed me like, yeah, jazz and chords are cool, but you can also make a weird sound, and that could just be your verse, and that laid the groundwork for me for like stuff I got into in college, which was a lot of electronic based stuff. Where I was just trying to create weird noises to go over, drum and bass beats or something like that. Uh, but anyways, no, yeah, raging. So yeah, I heard Bulls on Parade, and then I think to this day, their first album is the only album that I've ever learned every note start to finish.
Wow.
And I had a whammy pedal, and all of his stuff or whatever. Yeah, I thought Tom Morello was awesome, and I finally got to see him with Prophets of Rage, which is the band from Rage Against the Machine, but with Chuck D from Public Enemy and B Real from Cypress Hill singing.
Cool.
And got to see one of my idols on stage or whatever, and he extended all the solos to those Rage songs, so it was just like, oh man.
That's
Because
awesome.
everyone there knows those songs, because they only had, that's what happens when you have such a short discography, is it every moment is legendary.
Yeah.
Nirvana, Randy Rhoads era Ozzy, so just what comes to mind for me. And so love Rage.
I'm assuming if you played the Rage Against the Machine album from beginning to end, I'm assuming you got familiar with drop D tuning.
Yes, but that I first learned about that. Okay, so when I was about 12 or 13, right before I got into Nirvana and everything else, I think the first thing that wasn't considered classic rock at the time that I really got into was Soundgarden.
Oh, okay.
Soundgarden uses every tuning ever.
Yeah.
Black Hole Sun is so annoying because it's drop E flat. So they tune the entire guitar up one note and then drop that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Tears of Rock, do you experiment with different, alternate tunings with the music that you play, or?
Not so much. I have one guitar. Let me show you real quick.
Cool.
This one right here is the original baby. But yeah, this is in C standard. Because sleep. But also it's the note right before you have to hit baritone tuning and just get yourself a baritone guitar.
Right.
So yeah, really loose strings. I took that tip from Billy Gibbons, who was saying, somebody told him, "You're working too hard, man." I was like, I like that mentality. So yeah, I also have a theory that because they're loose, they just aren't prone to breaking, as much. I've never had a string break on these. Could also be the strings I'm using, the NYXLs, but probably. And then the other guitar I have is in drop D.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, those are both Reverends. The black one was the Reeves Gabriel from The Cure's signature Space Hawk, which for some reason to me is like, it's the closest thing I'll ever have to like a custom guitar. It has everything I love on it, like a extra bass knob, kill switch, whammy, locking tuners. That's everything I would put on my personal custom. So that thing is awesome. The other one was given to me, and it's a Pete Anderson prototype that Reverend made. So it's really kind of a one-of-a-kind guitar. It's really awesome. Anyway,
Nice.
sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks for showing those.
Didn't mean to go off there, but yeah, I love those two guitars. And yeah, so C standard and drop D are mostly the two tunings we go back and forth for. Some things just sound a little bit too sludgy or muddy, and the notes stand out more in drop D. And then yeah, so
Cool.
mhm.
Yeah. I'm curious because yesterday we were talking about the graphic novel aspect of your
Yes,
your story. So I would definitely like to, hear about that. I thought that was like really interesting. So
yeah. But then, okay, so what came first was the music. I was writing this heavy Texas blues country thing. And that's another band I have called the Creek Creatures, but that'll be for a different time.
sure.
Uh, but in writing for that, I wrote a song that was really just a straightforward metal song. It had no twang and no bluesy accents or whatever. It was really just straightforward metal. And originally, I just called it the Conan song because Conan the Barbarian is the guy. And
I agree.
yeah. Which, by the way, if you're ever in Austin, there's a place here called Conan's Pizza, and
Oh,
I don't know about the north location. I usually just go to the south, but the south has the old Frank Frazetta artwork all over the
oh,
tables.
nice.
It's so cool. Anyway, um, uh, yeah, and so for obvious reasons, yeah, to Gallop in it, and then somehow I found out about the Bronze Age collapse and Ramses III and all that, and just became overly fascinated with this phrase that I kept saying, the last great warrior pharaoh of Egypt, and it's like I can't believe I haven't heard any of this before. Um, and then so yeah, I just got really into that. Read this book a few times,
Cool.
became really familiar with the history, and then um and all of it was just for the music, was just so we could tell the story in the music. But then I was talking to my singer guitar buddy Tyner. It was like, dude, I think we have too many good artwork opportunities here. Like, this needs to be something more than cool posters and cool album art. Let's make a comic. And he was like, I think that's the best idea you've ever had. And I was like, well, that doesn't say a whole lot, but okay. and, um, and yeah, and then it kind of just took off from there. I wish I was the storyteller. My great grandfather could recite poetry just off the top of his head for minutes. It was amazing to watch. Um, that's just not where my strong suits are. I get really into just notes and music and all that kind of stuff. But so I've always had to reach out for somebody who could help me focus what I'm trying to do. And first guy I met was named Ben out when I was living out in Killeen or in Salado, and he lived in Killeen. And we got a good start. If anything, it was just an excuse for me to read every H.P. Lovecraft, anything, The King in Yellow, all of his affiliations, everything like that. And then when I came to Austin, we tried meeting up a few times or whatever, and I was like, hey man, I don't know. The band started to pick up, and I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna have time for this. I'm just gonna focus on the music for now. A lot of time went by, and then I met my current writing partner. His name is Zach, and uh, he what made me want to work with him is whenever we would discuss. He's the big gamer guy, and whenever he would talk about video games or we discuss movies or comics or whatever that we've read, he was always just action. He doesn't really care about it because action is there's no story there,
Hmm.
or whatever. He's really just into the evolution of characters or lore and stuff like that. And so yeah, he just seemed like the perfect fit. And the direction that it's taking now with him is much more. Every session just begins with like, you know, what is this about? And uh why is anybody doing anything? Like, it's such a complete breakdown of each of the characters, and to where every action is them as much as we can make it. Because originally it was a lot of like they're gonna fight here and then they're gonna go get the thing and they're gonna fight this guy, and there's still that, but now it just seems a much more mature not maybe mature isn't the right word, but just a different approach, one that is way more heavily focused on it's like the difference between like Taxi Driver and I don't know, generic action movie, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds like something we need more of in our culture, something with a little sophistication to it. So, and a little development.
Well, it's just I if if I want people to feel for this guy as much as I do, best portray that in the best way you can.
Sure.
And so yeah. Anyway, the Lovecraft stuff. Uh, yeah, they're all in there. The greatest hits or whatever are in there. Dagon is the one I'm excited about because Dagon was the first H.P. Lovecraft story I ever read, and I just thought, and ever since then I've just been ruined. But uh, uh, but yeah, just epic ancient battles, man versus unknowable monster, and what's not to love about that?
Yeah.
And then yeah, like I said, it just gives me this kind of a boundless. I mean, okay, what I love about it is that it's focused, the sound and everything. It's like just come back to the root of where the music is coming from, those influences, and so that's the focus. But then the boundless creativity just comes from this can be as deep as a person is, on all these different levels. So. Because originally when I started it, it was just supposed to be like a trilogy of stoner metal epics or something like that. And then years went by and I've been playing these songs or whatever. I've only had the band for coming up on a year, but I've been writing for this since about 2020.
Okay.
And so, I feel like I wrote the best of what I had to offer. And I'm still gonna write heavy, slow stuff, and I'm sure I'll think of some more ideas, but I don't know. I don't like to sound redundant in my sound, and so that's what I loved about Led Zeppelin. They just seem to always be, progressing in one way or another. So
Yeah, if you take any one of their albums, there's a mixed bag of musical genres mixed with rock. From one song to the next.
yeah, it's hard to call Led Zeppelin 3 even a rock album, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Gallows
Folk
Pole
elements
is,
and
yeah.
yeah,
And same with Soundgarden. When they started versus where they're at, Uh, but yeah, and man, just one note on Soundgarden. I think that song "Nothing to Say" was the first time I was ever aware of like slow and heavy music. Because
cool.
before that, I've just been listening to, like I said, ZZ Top and old Ozzy and all that stuff. And Black Sabbath is in there, but for some reason, I just didn't like this song hit me different in a way to where I was like, whoa, that is moody and heavy and melodic, and he's screaming, and it's, oh man, it's just, yeah, very beautiful.
It's cool. Yesterday, I think when we were talking, I think that you had mentioned like a music video aspect to the music. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit or.
Yeah, so we're planning a music video for one of our songs called "The Fall of Ugarit," which refers to the port city that fell at the flame, or whatever you want to say, of the these invaders. And what's pretty cool is that an eclipse happened, I think, around that time too. Anyway,
Oh,
um, and so the music video idea is, I guess I'm just gonna ruin it, but it's Muppets,
oh,
and
okay.
our drummer has a background in puppetry, oddly enough. He's true Renaissance man.
Oh, cool.
um, and because with our music and stuff, we're writing about a very specific area, the Mediterranean, basically. And I live in Austin, Texas, and I mean, I could drive out to like Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado, right? Big thing or whatever. I'm just saying when I do live action stuff. If you want to be authentic, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of time or money,
Sure.
for what we're doing. Yeah. Um, and I don't know. So Muppets just seemed interesting because it was like, oh, well, we can do that. We can create small sets
Yeah.
and, create custom Muppets of ourselves and have big Cthulhu Muppet, and
That's
all that
cool.
kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm excited because it just seems like there's a lot more opportunity to have fun and create a more visually interesting video than us with gear in the sand or something.
Yeah. No, I like it. You have a lot of really creative ideas. Um, when can we expect to hear some of this? Do you have a release date in mind, or are you that far along in the process?
So next month we're recording our debut EP. We have one single out right now, um, called Tears of Raw on Apple, Spotify. Next month is recording the debut EP. It'll be 5 tracks, and if you go watch our the live stream that we have up, like the YouTube links we have on our Instagram page or anything like that, you can hear most of what we're recording.
Cool.
And then shortly after that is going to be an acoustic single. It's an acoustic ballad. Our other singer, she's from Bahrain, and this song is going to be not related to the story at all.
Okay.
It's going to be as far as what we're thinking so far is that it's going to be in Arabic, and it's just going to be a love letter to her home country.
It sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
I just want to mention that I do, on LINL Radio, I do a heavy metal show. Usually airs on Thursdays, called Hammer and Anvil Metal Show. So,
okay.
yeah. So once you have, whenever you have material and I mean, it's not like I don't play heavy metal during other periods of the week, but that's like, the focus. It's about 2 hours long of just, metal, one song after the next. So, it sounds like a good place for your tunes if you ever want to send them my way.
You bet. I sure appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll have 2 singles off the EP, is what we're thinking, and then, like I said, just a one-off acoustic ballad about the land of two seas, as it's referred to. And then next year, the focus is going to be on the full-length album, which,
Awesome.
like I said, I've been writing since 2020, so I've got like 15 complete songs ready for it, and then a bunch of backup ideas. Like, there's so much we could do.
Cool.
That's actually kind of a problem with doing that and then starting the band much later, right? Is now you're just unsure of like, well, I got all this stuff.
Eventually, the two roads will converge, and you'll be,
Correct.
streamlined as far as what you're doing.
Correct. That's why I'm really excited because and every time I bring a song to the band or whatever, it'll change. Well, we should do
Sure.
this different, yeah. And so the songs as they come out are different, usually not insignificantly by how than what I originally wrote. And so, but that's why I'm excited for the second album that we're gonna do, which is gonna be the big Sea People versus Ramses album, is because I haven't written for it yet, or at least have nothing dedicated to it yet. I got plenty of ideas or whatever in the vault, but what excites me more would be creating something organically with the rest of the band. So, Yeah.
Well,
Um,
listen, you know, the last thing I would ever want is for us to get cut off again. I appreciate your patience and kindness, you know, dealing with the difficulties and everything like that we had yesterday and reconstructing this conversation. I just want to give you the floor just in case there's, you know, anything you want to add, if you want to mention anybody or direct anyone to your music or whatever, you know, and then we're going to wrap things up if that's cool with you.
sure. Shout out to my keyboard player and saxophone man. His name is Michael Schatz. If you're looking for an audio guy in Austin, he's a pretty good guy.
Cool.
He also makes music. Absolute Horizon. And then yeah, shout out to our drummer Ben, who's a videographer. Layla is a fantastic singer. Tyner and John, our bassist, is also a bassist for another. If you like, you know, Black Sabbath, Doom, and psychedelic and all that, his other band Fuzz Lightyear is really cool. So yeah, and all of us make Tears of Ra. And like I said, we'll have something out in the next few months. Until then, we have, like I said, stuff on YouTube, shows, and our one single, which is interesting because once we record it again, it'll be played different. So, yeah. That's all I got for now. We'll be at Battle of the Bands Sunday, August 25th at ABGB, and we're excited about that.
Okay. If you just hang out for a couple of minutes, I'm going to end the recording, sign off with the audience, and then I'll just chat with you for a moment or two. Okay. All right. So thanks, folks, for checking out Lionel interviews, and we'll look forward to hearing Tears of Ra music on the station at some point. Okay.